for those in the lobby who have not come to worship yet, I invite you to join us in the sanctuary because we're getting started. My name is Jermaine Kripe, and I am your Lifespan Ministry Team Coordinator here at Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation here in Summit. I am an African-American woman with blue glasses, a green headband, and a black dress. We're coming to you today in celebration of giving. And in that spirit of generosity, we wanted to have you give us your names in the chat. So our friends online, please introduce yourself on the chat to our virtual usher, Pablo Vasquez, and all the other members who are listening from home or wherever you happen to be in the world. Today is a big day. You probably can smell it for those of the people in the building. A little bit of giving that we do every year in our congregation is in support of our partner churches in Barote, Transylvania, and Jawai, India. And today is the pancake breakfast. So after service, if you're feeling a little peckish, please go downstairs and partake. Give a little money in the hat to help support scholarships for the students in Barote, and enjoy some fellowship with folks down there. Just as a side note, the kids made gumbo, so if you want to partake in some vegetarian gumbo, that'll be on the table as well. So this morning, we join others here as flawed human beings. We are not perfect, but we are working perfectly hard to do better in the world. And I hope that you find inspiration and joy and more sustenance to get you through another tough week in the world that we've been having. And to end that, I wanted to share these words that were written by my sister-in-law before she passed with you. Jewel was a poet, and more than anything, she was a social justice warrior. And so having her write this before she passed was really important. Love everyone always. Until when? Until the end of always. Except who? Except anyone who is not part of everyone. But why love? Because we are creatures, beings, children, made from love, made of love, made for love. Always. Welcome to Beacon. Let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Missy Rogers, your worship associate today. I am a white woman with salt and pepper hair, greenish blue glasses, and black and brown on today. And as we light our chalice to begin our service, I would like to see if there's anyone in the sanctuary here who would like to light the chalice candle for us. Oh, I've got 2 kids who want to. Oh, sorry, I saw that. What? Oh. Bring it on. There is enough.
Lucy, can you let Franz and...
Oh, that one good? Okay. It's a little bit of an ordeal sometimes. Okay. All right, so first start with that one. So put the candle down there. Yeah, okay. I'm going to turn that. Okay. Do you want to close this one out for us? Very nice. Thank you, everybody. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us.
It is now. We're going to sing our opening hymn, and the we is our Director of Music Ministry, Misa Iwama, and myself will lead you in singing one of my favorite songs, also written by a Unitarian named Malvina Reynolds, and it's called The Magic Penny. You'll sing the chorus while we sing I'll sing the verses. So join along if you can.
Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more.
It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor.
For love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more.
Money's dandy and we like to use it, but love is better if you don't refuse it. It's a treasure and you'll never lose it unless you lock up your door.
For love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. Thanks.
Okay, morning everyone. I'm Mothen Gounder. I'm on the Stewardship Team.
Just say your names. Carol Conger-Miller.
Jen Scarter-McCann.
Mary O'Malley.
Okay. Every morning, the sun comes up, and wise Wendell wakes up with a twinkle in his eye and a hum in his heart, ready to do the day's duties.
Oh, gotta comb my hair, brush my teeth, and put my boots on to go meet my friends. Oh, I slept in them again.
Every morning, wise Wendell walks outside to meet his two friends, Tuli Patel and Bo Basin. And every morning, the three of them trudge up the long hill to the mountain spring, where they fetch the water for the villagers' daily needs.
Time to collect the water.
Tuli Patel is bright and beautiful, and she is proud of how neatly she carries her water for the town each day.
I never spill a drop.
On the other hand, Bo Basin looks ragged. His feet, like his pot, are cracked all over. He limps every time he steps on a rock.
And I always spill water on this long journey.
Each day, wise Wendell, Tuli Patel, and Bo Basin arrive in the town and offer the water to the people. Polly always has the most to give, but Bo is always embarrassed that he does not have much left in his pot. Every day, the townspeople thank Polly while Bo is ignored.
Wendell, why did Bo go off by himself? Why is he upset?
Well, Bo compares himself to you, Polly. He doesn't see all the good things he does. He only sees that he can't carry as much water as you, and in his mind, you give much more than he does to the people.
But he's my best friend, and he shouldn't be sad. Bo's my best friend. I love spending time every day of every season following our routine. We wake up, we walk up the mountain, collect water, and proudly bring it down from the mountain to the town. How can we help Bo to see just how wonderful he is?
You know, I have an idea. The air is starting to warm up. Spring is here once again. I say tomorrow we'll finally show Bo his special powers.
Wendell, Polly, and Bo wake up early to make the trek up the hill the next morning. They gather water, as always, and head back down the hill.
My bucket is leaking again.
Bo, look at Polly's side of the path.
I'm confused. What am I supposed to be looking at? All I see is sticks and dirt and really nothing else.
Okay, right. Now, look at your side of the path.
Oh, I don't believe it. Look at all this color. We have tulips over here and daffodils and another daffodil. Wow.
As Bo stared in awe, a baby deer came up to his pot and caught the water that drizzled from the cracked side. A huge smile split Bo's face, and he was overjoyed.
Wow. I read that already. Where did all this come from? I hadn't noticed that before.
So, Bo, the water you spill as we walk down the hill every morning has fed these flowers and brought life and hope to the animals. You may not carry as much water as Polly. You may not have been doing this work for as long as I have. But Bo Bucket, you give so much. You are special and important exactly the way you are.
All gifts, regardless of their size or form they take, are welcome and important. What matters is the spirit in which they are given. And you may be surprised that the smallest one matters, even if it might not seem like a lot, especially if they are given in the spirit of generosity and love. Here ends our time for all ages.
Good morning, Beacon. My name is Adam Gonerman, and I'm honored to serve as a Beacon chaplain. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm wearing blue jeans, an olive green shirt, and a gray jacket, and I probably should mention I'm a middle-aged, bald white man, so that completes your picture. You can easily spot me or any chaplain here at Beacon by the maroon stole that we wear. As a chaplain, I'm a specially trained layperson dedicated to providing compassionate support and pastoral care during life's challenging moments. Whether you're coping with loss, anxiety, physical or emotional struggles, we're here to listen and to provide a supportive presence. Our support extends beyond today's service. You can reach out to us anytime for conversation. If you'd like to speak with me or another chaplain, please don't hesitate to approach us. We're also available for one-on-one conversations over the phone or in person. You can find more information about our ministry on the Beacon website. I'll be available after today's service if you'd like to chat. Remember, confidentiality is a sacred commitment we uphold, ensuring a safe and non-judgmental space for you to express yourself. Additionally, we're privileged to nurture the spiritual well-being of our community through our weekly candle lighting ceremony. Today, we light candles of love and support for those facing serious health challenges, all those recovering from natural disasters and coping with the effects of climate change, for a just peace in Ukraine. We light a candle reaffirming our congregation as a sanctuary congregation and LGBTQI+ affirming community. We kindle a light for the beginning of Women's History Month. We lift up the Universalist Clara Barton, who was a humanitarian, author, and founder of the American Red Cross. We light a candle for our partners in Jawaya, India, and Barot, Transylvania, as we celebrate our tri-partnership and raise funds today to support their trip here in October of this year. A candle of sorrow and appreciation as well for the lives of Roberta Flack, Dr. Hazel Dukes, and Angie Stone. We invite you to join us in lighting a candle, whether here in the sanctuary or wherever you may be, symbolizing hope, solidarity, and prayer for these and many other intentions. Thank you.
sing with me on hymn number 126, which is Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. So that's 126. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our ears to sing thy grace, streams of mercy never singing, call for songs of loudest praise, while the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love. Teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our hearts through what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of warful silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways, lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
So this proves that I am a shortish, blonde, sturdy woman wearing cool glasses, a dark printed shirt, black pants, and flat shoes. And I go by she, her, although I often forget pronouns. I began attending Beacon with my wife Suzanne in 2017. Is there any similarity? When we were seeking some refuge, a faith community, and connection to the values we cherished, but weren't really seeing out there in the world. We were graciously welcomed and started getting involved in all kinds of things, but community groups being one of the most important. Volunteering for the auction, doing cleanup, whatever it was, moving hymnals around, we were game. We were in it. And I embraced becoming a UU at Beacon, though I had a roundabout way of getting here. I was originally a Long Island Catholic, go figure, and then shifted to being Episcopalian, which is kind of like Catholic light. For over 20 years, I was in various roles in a small church in my town, but I needed something more, and I found my Beacon home. My background growing up was a very blue-collar upbringing, and we got by, but I don't remember at all that we were particularly generous or charitable. There was no conversation about giving or volunteering and doing for others in my family. We did have some traditions, though, and my grandmother had fixated on this must-do activity each year. We had to each have herring as the very first thing on New Year's Day. I don't know if any of the rest of you have heard this, but somehow this was magical. The reason for this was to ensure that we would always have enough. that made a big impression on me since it was so absolutely contrary to the other values my family expressed. One of the things that they continually mentioned is just don't really set high expectations, because that way you'll never be disappointed. I never bought into that. I didn't. I made my way through high school, where I dismissed the football coach guidance counselor's advice that I become a gym teacher. It was kind of his rote thing that you should become a gym teacher. And instead headed to college to become an engineer. And part of that reason was because of the women's movement. I really saw that it was important to have money, to have power, and I needed to have that money to create change by donating to organizations and helping others. I increased my development and awareness of stewardship during my Episcopal days. Obviously, I was on the stewardship group and finance and all those things. But it allowed me to understand the totality of all that you do with all that you have, all of the time, was crucial. It wasn't just a one-time thought. It caused me to think differently and broadly. I've also witnessed that what my grandmother had said was true. There will always be enough. Focusing on abundance rather than scarcity changed my outlook on life. How can I rather than I can't shaped it. I have to admit this, still run out on New Year's Eve because I forgot to get my little jar of herring as a symbol, or perhaps a little superstition, in my knowing that there always will be enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. With the spirit of abundance on our hearts and minds, this morning's offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you.
All right, I'm so glad to be joined today by some of the members of the choir. So Janice and Kathy and Glory, thank you for coming to help us sing this next hymn, which is number 402 in the hymnal. It's From You I Receive. We can remain seated for this one. We're going to sing it 3 times. And the first time we'll sing it will be unison. And then we'll start adding in some harmony as we go. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice, Kathy, Glory, Lisa, Vicky. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. My name is Tuli Patel. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a South Asian plus-size woman, getting older every day, wearing a blue turtleneck and a scarf and black pants. So I want to admit that this morning's meditation might feel a little, I don't know, out of place, particularly when there is so much pressing in from all sides that we want to rail against. Yes? Yes. But I'll posit to you that there can be no better time to talk about it than now. From Friday's economic blackout efforts, anybody? Anybody? Oh, look at that, yes. To the Tesla protests in Tesla parking lot. There we go. We can spend time in circumstances such as the ones we are in with our disciplines to strengthen our bonds with one another and our resolve to resist. Yes? Yes. Disciplines such as meditation, disciplines such as coming to Beacon, disciplines such as engaging in worship as you are doing here and online. So let us begin. You are invited to settle in, get into a comfortable position that you can hold for maybe 3 minutes. If your feet reach the floor, that's great. If not, maybe you want to place them on the rungs of the chair. And your eyes are gently closed or gazing at a spot in front of you. There shouldn't be any strain behind the eyes. And settling in, focusing on the breath, moving in and out through the body. Inhale, following the trajectory of the air, comes in through the nostrils, down past the back of the throat, and into the lungs. And there an exchange takes place, an exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. We know this because science tells us so, but we cannot actually feel the exchange. We know it exists. We cannot actually perceive it. The boundary between the in-breath and the out-breath dissolves. We might not even be aware of the impact of the boundary, just like Bo Basin wasn't aware of the impact of his leaky water bucket, until we tune in to our physical selves, until we tune in to how we are feeling on a day-to-day basis. And so we breathe in and we breathe out. The breath that takes care of itself all by itself, and which we spend very few moments actually aware of. Allowing the exchange to take place between the giving and the receiving. The boundary between us resolves as we might not even be aware that we are separate, that there is no I in you. There is just a we. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. The breath can ground us, as can anchor points in our bodies if the breath is challenged. Our feet, our hands, the tops of our head. Allowing our breath to deepen now. Inhaling deeply, exhaling out tension. We bring our awareness back to the space and time. And you're invited to remain seated with your eyes closed as Misa and Vicky lead us in humming the song we just sang. This sermon is generally known in UU circles as the Sermon on the Amount. So this morning we are exploring generosity and abundance, particularly as it relates to money, and the theme for the month is trust. Let's see how far I get before I tie myself into knots, and if I can unravel the Gordian entanglement. One of my favorite stories from Hindu mythology, some people would not react well to my calling it mythology, so just let's call it Hinduism. One of my favorite stories from Hinduism is of Krishna and Sudama. Krishna is well known, of course, avatar of Vishnu, and the lead for the dialogue, which is the Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna is young, he goes to school with Sudama. The two are best friends. As they grow, Krishna goes off on amazing adventures, defeating poisonous snakes, rescuing females, waging wars against the unkind and unjust. We need a Krishna for these times, don't we? Yes. Sudama, however, falls on hard times. There is barely any food left in his home. His children are malnourished. Sudama's wife urges him to approach his childhood friend to ask for help. Sudama is reluctant, ashamed of his worn clothes and this act of essentially asking for mercy. But he finally relents. Because you must never visit empty-handed, Sudama gathers a handful of puffed rice, which was a staple during school recess when he and Krishna were young. Sudama approaches the palace gates with much trepidation. The palace guards block his entry, disbelieving that such a disheveled person could be a friend of Krishna's. Krishna is drawn to the palace gates by the commotion. He doesn't recognize his friend until he spies the gift of puffed rice, which Sudama is ashamed to offer since it is so paltry. A flood of memories rush in. The two friends embrace, and Sudama shares about his life, but does not directly ask for help. He speaks of his love for his wife and home and children, and when asked by Krishna as to the reason for his visit, says only that he was longing for time with his friend and that his heart is full and he's ready to return home, complete in having his longing fulfilled. When Sudama returns home, instead of a mud-baked adobe hut, there is a luxurious house with shelves of food and fine clothes. Krishna has relieved Sudama of his penury. He's a god after all. When I was young, I loved this story for its lost and found redemptive tale. I was drawn to the trust that Sudama's wife placed in a childhood friendship. Today, I am drawn to the layers of shame surrounding having less than and the generous abundance that Krishna operates from. This seems to be at the crux of why we might be reluctant to talk about money. It brings into sharp relief, instead of hovering in the background, the inequities among us. We always have more than some, less than others. Some of our wealth is hard-earned, perhaps for some it is inherited, and for others it comes by thanks to market idiosyncrasies. Regardless of how we came by it, we know that there is inequity in how much financial wealth we have, and this rubs against our core value that all are worthy. If all are worthy, shouldn't they have equal access to the power, status, and freedom that money seems to buy? Remember that Nancy talked to us about the power that money seemed to buy. And with this dissonance, we stop talking about it. So as we struggle with the haves and have-nots, the question for us is how to rejoice when the person we have grown up with outstrips us in monetary terms. Can we feel their joy and revel in their richness like Sudama did? And for the person we know who is struggling, what can we do to help them? The Buddhist Brahma Viharas, virtues to cultivate, in particular mudita, which is sympathetic joy, and karuna, compassion, would have you embrace both circumstances with upekha or equanimity. Perhaps in order to begin having the conversation, we need a culture shift. A recent article in the New York Times compared fitness culture from 5 countries. Here, we pay to go to the gym, adding a transactional monetary component to our well-being. In Finland, you walk as much as you can, even when it's freezing. In Japan, people take small and short fitness breaks. In the UK, working out is communal. And in Brazil, it's a party. Conspicuous by its absence is mention of populations where battling extreme poverty is its own workout, breaking rocks by the side of the road, or clambering up heaps of garbage to find an item for resale. I leave it to you to imagine the color of skin of those who struggle in this way. And if you're wondering why I mention race every time I speak, the simple answer is that I must, as it is at the heart of all the isms we struggle with. And unless I make it a daily practice, it's easy to be lulled into a state of pretense and numbing falsehoods. Back to the article, though. The same thread runs through all the countries in the article, the human endeavor to better ourselves. But the difference lies in the attitudes of how to achieve this, through consumerist relationships, such as those experienced here or some other. So the giving translation across the countries would be, what do I get out of it? That's in the US. It's good for me to give it away even though it hurts, Finland. We might do a little bit at a time, Japan. We'll do it together, the United Kingdom. And let's rejoice in our giving, Brazil. I know, I've taken some liberties. Since our cultural context is the US, let's dig a little deeper. Dan Ariely, now professor at Duke, through his book Predictably Irrational, helps us unpack our consumerism. Along with social scientists Clark, Mills, and Fisk, we see that most of us live in worlds of social norms and market norms. Social norms are wrapped in our human need to be social and make us feel warm and fuzzy. Market norms, while not necessarily evil or mean-spirited, involve the you get what you pay for dynamic. Many social scientists have explored the effects of these kinds of norms on relationships and on human motivation. In varied experiments, they found that cash will only take you so far. Social norms are the forces that can make a difference in the long run. So let's think of some examples of social norms and market norms. I'll start us off. Dropping off some homemade broth for a sick friend is a social norm. Offering the friend $5 for the soup is shifting into market norms. How about some other examples? Give me some examples. Social norm or market norm?
Giving to charity.
Giving to charity is a social norm?
And can be a market.
And a market norm, both. Okay. Some other examples? What do you all do? What's a social norm? Go ahead, Rose.
Like coming here is a social norm.
Coming here is a social norm. What else? Conversation, yes. Somebody else? Go ahead, Joanne.
Giving food to the hungry.
Giving food to the hungry. Excellent. Very good. So Ariely says we live in 2 worlds, one characterized by social exchanges and other characterized by market exchanges. And we apply different norms to these different kinds of exchanges. Moreover, introducing market norms into social exchanges violates social norms and hurts the relationship. Once this type of mistake has been committed, recovering a social relationship is difficult. In Unitarian Universalist terms, we might call these contractual versus covenantal exchanges. So what is the interaction between Krishna and Sudama? Is it governed by market norms or social norms? Recall that Sudama never actually asked for anything, even though his wife urged him to. So what is it? It's a social norm. This is meant to be a sermon on the amount. I'm supposed to be asking for money. But culture dies hard. In Buddhist circles, it is anathema to ask for money. The Dhamma is meant to be freely shared. At my first 10-day silent meditation retreat, I entered having done the math on how much I was planning to give, the equivalent of about $75 a day. It seemed fair for 2 meals, a private room and bath. The days wore on, and on, and there was never any mention of money until the last day when we were invited to give as we wished. I increased my donation tenfold, knowing that I was paying for those who couldn't give as much and living into the generous abundance modeled by those who are able to give much more. It made me feel good, warm and fuzzy, just like a social norm-based relationship. It got me interested in why. As the great American Buddhist Thanisaro Bhikkhu says, after all, when you give, you put yourself in a position of wealth. The gift is proof that you have more than enough. At the same time, it gives you a sense of your worth as a person. You're able to help other people. The act of giving also creates a sense of spaciousness in the mind, because the world we live in is created by our actions, and the act of giving creates a spacious world. A world where generosity is the operating principle. A world where people have more than enough to share, and it creates a good feeling in the mind. But surely there's more to giving generously beyond feeling good about oneself? Again, from Thanisaro Bhikkhu. But there's another kind of connectedness, an intentional connectedness that comes through our actions. With generosity, you create a positive connection, a helpful connection, a connection where you're glad that the boundary is down, a connection where good things can flow back and forth. So this is what generosity does. It makes your mind more spacious and creates good connections with the people around you. It dissolves the boundaries that would otherwise keep the happiness from spreading around. To me, this interconnectedness is what social norms are designed to do. The kind of interconnectedness that has us serving pancakes here today to raise funds for our partners in Barot and India, that's 1 and 2 oceans away. If by giving I can deepen and strengthen my bonds with others, firm up those social norms, then like the Buddhists, giving to me will feel light, weightless, less cumbersome, and weighed down by it. And yet, our culture here is not inherently or primarily Buddhist. We are not dependent on the Sangha for our food, nor are we tied to any precepts or vows. Our cultural context plays constantly between social norms and market norms. Here we have a social community, small groups, people we can ask for help, and we pay to make it all possible, not just through financial gifts, but also by sharing our time and talent. As a donor said to me less than a month ago when I thanked them for their support of Beacon, of course we support Beacon. The congregation is the center of our social lives and a source of strength and purpose. And although our UU messages haven't stood the test of time as the Dhamma has, similarly to the Dhamma, we give up programs freely. There is no minimum amount for membership, nor a stipulated fee for any of our programs. You give because you understand that it takes money to make our programs possible. And unlike Buddhism, where conversation about money and sexuality is verboten, here it is not. So how much should we give? Are we back to consumerism and considering what we get out of it? As an aside, in a study of charitable giving of religious institutions, it turns out that Unitarian Universalists give less than other faith traditions as a percentage of their income to their congregations. They probably give a lot more in toto, but not necessarily to their congregations. And this is just in money terms. That is the treasure piece of stewardship, not the time or the talent. How much? Most of you will have received a letter in the mail asking for a 5% increase over last year. Is this too much? Is it too little? How much should you really give? The fear of not having enough for ourselves might keep us from feeling that we have enough. And not enough, not just in monetary terms, but again, in terms of time and talent, as increasingly families are stretched in all directions. We see and experience daily those who have less than us and might be afraid that the same misfortunes might befall us. How do we shift from the state of paralyzing fear to abundance? Yes, we can remain present and meditate on the present moment, but to shift into a state of largesse, we need to define and redefine what enough means for us. The Reverend Chris Jimerson says it this way: "This defining and redefining of enough, it turns out, is one of the strongest ways in which we can resist the cultural myth of scarcity. It is one of the ways we can find greater life satisfaction. All over the country, people are engaging in this countercultural idea and redefining themselves what enough means." In mourning my father's passing, staying present to the vacuum left in his absence, and celebrating his extraordinary life, he was a civil engineer of some renown, but at heart a philanthropist, I am left with his lessons. To work for the public good, to set aside petty differences, and to be generous. He always said important decisions shouldn't be based on money, and if you did the work, money would come. I guess another word for that angle would be trust that the money will eventually come. So how much? As much as leaves you feeling you have enough. As much as strengthens the social norm. Like Sudama, who was prepared to leave empty-handed, having his heart filled with friendship and new memories. As much, as my father said, as allows you to serve the public good, trusting that more will come. In the hope that each one of us is able to give generously, may we, as the Buddha said, have enough. Blessed be, and amen.
All right. Our closing song is The Fire of Commitment, and that is number 1028 in the Teal Hymnal. I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, and join in singing. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul
already left for the day. Please take hands across the aisles, and you're invited to go downstairs for the pancake breakfast as we close out with our benediction, which is modeled after the Beatitudes and inspired by the words of Eric Williams.
Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it.
Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way.
Blessed are those that share their gifts. Blessed are those who understand there is enough.
Blessed are the gifts that you will receive. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey.
May you go forth in peace. Blessed be and amen.